So now your password gets compromised. It gets all over the dark web. What do? You reset it. You change it to a new one. You get a stronger one. If you use your imagination, it is very easy to change your password. But how do you change your face? Thanks again for joining. It's your host, Nisby, or you can call me Mr. Nisby. I want to talk today about biometrics. And the question is, has your face been stolen lately? Okay, you can replace that with passwords, because most of the time we put passwords, input passwords to websites in order so we may protect our accounts. So now it's kind of the talk again between privacy versus security, but also what are the implications of using biometric passwords? They're real convenient. I like them. You put your finger in on the print reader and then you're able to access your computer, your accounts. Maybe it's a tablet or some other type of device. You walk up to your computer, it sees your face, facial recognition, it lets you in. If you use your imagination, it is very easy to change your password. But how do you change your face? That's not what today's topic is about. We're not changing faces, but what I just want to talk about is a choice you may want to think twice about. I do generally believe that most vendors that collect biometric data, they really do their best to secure that data. But there's also the ones that do not do a good job securing this data. So if all failed, the question I have is, where would your biometric data, how would it be used in the hands of someone who actually wanted to do something malicious with your biometric data? So now your password gets compromised. It gets all over the dark web. What do? You reset it. You change it to a new one. You get a stronger one. And that's why you shouldn't associate your password, with like your name or, your dog's name, significant others, or the company name, password, exclamation or something like that, or your name, because those things often get compromised. With your face, unfortunately, we can't do the same thing. So it's kind of more like a long-term, I would say effects if your biometric data was compromised. Well, if you lose your face, your fingerprint, your thumbprint on the internet, it's similar to the rules of the internet. Once it's on the internet, it's always there. And you can always expect that there's probably a copy of it somewhere. There's a few websites out there that do, in fact, take and store all the information from as many websites as possible and accessible. So imagine if the same thing was done for your credentials, including your face or your fingerprints. In general, the main focus of this message was really supposed to be, do not send your photos, unless you're really okay with possibilities, but don't send like a government issued ID across the internet over your email or over, chat channels and things like that, unless you are prepared. Now, you would have to actually be prepared for something similar to having accounts reset, facial. There's a lot of different things that can be done. I'm just going to read an article. I thought it was pretty interestingly written here. It's on biometric theft. This one comes to you by welivesecurity.com. I think it was just a nice article by Cameron Camp here. You can reset your PIN after a data breach. You can reset your password after a data breach. You can reset your security questions after a data breach, but you can't reset your face? ? Asymmetrically of the amount of effort you'll need to expand in response to a vendor's carelessness handling of biometric data. Subsequent resets could even get weirder, this elevates identity theft to a whole new level. I can't imagine a phone call to your online account saying, "That's not me." The reply, "Is this your face?" Hard to argue, you didn't make the fraudulent purchase. So, obviously, imagine someone with your picture out there using it for authenticating devices, authenticating yourself. They have all the rest of your information, and they say, well, just send us all your government ID information and we'll validate your account. So the hackers, they send it. And now you have things popping up everywhere, and this heightened security that says, yeah, just send us your, valid government ID. Now all of a sudden is accepted as validity, as the valid source of identifying. If you haven't already, wrap your mind around that concept of how important it is to really make sure that as much as possible of your data is not floating out there on the internet. And every time you trust a system with your biometric data, essentially you're trusting that they will not lose it at all. And if they do, you have to understand what the implications. It's not as easy as calling up the credit bureaus and putting a hold on a lock on your account, because these things can happen later. And obviously DMV, they don't reissue a new driver's license number that I'm aware of. So things can definitely be tricky when it comes to that. So yeah, the moral of the story, I didn't want to get into too many details, is think about biometric data. Think about how much data you have out there when it comes to authentication, passwords, PINs, photos, government issued, even identification cards such as social security and things like that. Think of the way that you do send it over. We used to use fax a lot, and fax was the method where you would fax your very sensitive data because you knew it went directly to the intended recipient. However, most faxing now is electronic. It still communicates across the network. Most of the time it is some type of encrypted protocol. However, it usually ends up on someone's computer. So now when you fax someone, even if you have a physical fax machine, you fax someone, they may receive it on a fax server, and then they're going to download it to their computer or to their server. And hopefully they have very good security and some type of compliances that help to protect this data. And if not, then you're really in for it. And that concludes our session today. Thanks a lot, and look forward to seeing you next time.
N-MEDTECH, we can get you on. N-MEDTECH, problems we can solve.